Mm-hmm.
We have 5:59. Do yours have 6?
I have 6.
Okay, good evening, everybody. I'm going to ask you to rise for the pledge.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Good evening and welcome, everybody. We're going to start the meeting with citizen comments. Do we have any citizen comments from the audience? No. Okay, we're going to move right along, and I'm going to turn it over to Adam for celebrations.
All right, bear with me because I got a lot of them. It's that time of year. So start off with the most important one, which clearly is graduation. A fantastic commencement yesterday. Thank you to all the board for attending. It's truly a pre-K-12 endeavor, but also it's a representation of our community, right? I mean, it's a team effort, like we always talk about, and from our business owners, parents, volunteers. I mean, everybody contributes to that, and the success of that 141 students that walked across the stage it's a team win. So, very proud of those kids. I mentioned in my update last week, I remember when they were third graders over at Explore, and several of them are taller than I am now, so they've definitely grown up. But just really proud of the community, our district, and those students for all their accomplishments, and always one of the highlights of the year. So moving down from the website, we have posted our top 10 graduates. And so, I don't know, Dave, if you want to click on the link there. If members of the community are interested in the top 10, we put a little bit about those students on the site, including where they're going to school, what they plan on majoring in, and then we've also listed our...
There's no video.
Oh, there's no video?
Can you work on that while we keep going? Thank you. Keep
So we also listed our all 8 honor roll. So students that had a 4-point throughout their time in high school are also listed on that page. A lot of sports themes because it's at this time of year as well with playoffs. But our girls tennis team went to the state championships this past weekend for the second year in a row after an excellent season, and competed very well. So congratulations to them for another successful run. Part of our K-12 STEAM initiative that doesn't always get a lot of highlights is our innovative vehicle design team. But this is actually a really cool endeavor at our high school, and it's funded through a series of grants. Steve Kirsten is in charge of this, and kids actually build a vehicle from scratch and then compete during a state event with other schools through a variety of different tasks. And so there's some video on the YouTube page of the vehicle at their competition at Kettering 2 weeks ago, and they earned 2 trophies at the event. So really cool part of that STEAM initiative, and the kids, Mr. Kirsten, has always done a fantastic job. The Congressional Art Competition, this is also, of course, part of STEAM, right? The A in STEAM is for the arts, and we had 4 students in the top 5 2 students in the top 5 before they received recognition at the Congressional Art Competition. And that's pretty impressive when you think about the number of entries, the fact that we had 4 kids recognized, 2 in the top 5. That says a lot about the art program. And so kudos to all involved with that. A couple of weeks ago, we had our Math and Science Academy showcase at the high school. This is one of the events all year that I always walk out of feeling not that intelligent. Kids do some amazing original research. This year we had one of our local media outlets there that actually did a live stream of part of the event, which was really nice coverage, and got to kind of publicize some of the original research that those students do. So very impressive all the way around. There's a number of video clips also up on the YouTube page for folks that are interested. They can go take a look at some of the things that the kids are working I think as I mentioned too in I mentioned at our previous meeting, the boys basketball team has been on their victory tour, which has opened up a lot of different things for them to do over the last month. So most recently they were honored at the state capitol, and also Coach Lewis and the team got to throw out the first pitch at Jackson Field. So all obviously well deserved, and a great group of kids who have handled that recognition. Couldn't be better how they've handled that. Keeping with the sports theme, our girls soccer team is now ranked #1 in the state, and they are competing in regionals this week. Wednesday is the first round of regionals, and so another banner season for one of our athletic programs. As you might remember last year, they were a goal away in the state semifinal game, and so keeping our fingers crossed that they can keep it going this year. At our middle school, had a unique opportunity. The Great Lakes Fishing Commission came in to do a presentation on invasive species. And one of the things animals they brought in was the sea lamprey. So there's pictures of that on the website. The thing's pretty gross, to be honest, but kids got an opportunity to see some of the threats to the Great Lakes, and had a really unique, authentic learning opportunity. And then to kind of close it out with a couple more sports stories. Baseball won districts on Saturday. It was a great doubleheader. They gave up 1 run in 2 games, and so they're moving on to regionals on Wednesday as well. So it'll be a big sporting evening on Wednesday. And then the golf team, which came in 3rd in the state last year, they're moving on to their state competition this week. And if you're at the golf outing, the WUSF golf outing, where some of those kids are out participating in different activities out there, they're really good. I don't golf, but the stuff they were doing was impressive. So a lot of celebrations, and I guess just in closing, I know we have one more meeting as a board, but this is our last week of school. And so I just want to thank our parents, our students, and our staff for all their support. We know this has been another challenging year for a lot of different reasons, but as a community, we've stepped up to support the children of Williamston at every opportunity, and it just continues to be a special place to be, a special place to work, and raise a family. So thank you to all for their efforts this year, and look forward to waving goodbye for the summer to our students on Friday afternoon. That is celebrations, pending any questions.
Any questions? Thank you. A lot. Yay. Move on to our education update, and we're going to start with Rebecca Olson.
Excellent. So thank you for allowing me to come and present the Little Hornet preschool education update for the 21-22 school year. It has been just a spectacular year of watching children grow, develop positive self-esteem and confidence as individual learners, and take ownership of that learning. So it's been a great year of growth for our youngest learners in the district. Do I adjust this?
There should be the clicker up there.
Oh, okay, there we go. So as we were saying, many great events have happened throughout the year. I'm just going to highlight just a couple. But enrollment has begun to rebound closer to the pre-pandemic numbers. Our enrollment this year has really been greatly impacted by the ability to recruit qualified staff members. And so our enrollment hasn't reached exact capacity quite yet, but we were at the capacity that we were able to staff. And so we really tried to still maintain our high quality of staff. And so our numbers were a little bit lower. We anticipate that to be back to normal for next year, and I'll talk about that in just a minute. One of the really positive aspects of our program is our family involvement and our family just response to our program. We do several family surveys throughout the year, and the final family survey that we did had 100% overall satisfaction rate. which is really great to see. It's really a tribute to the quality teachers that I have in the program, and how respectful they are to the children and how much they enjoy watching the children learn and enjoy their jobs. Out of that 100%, we did a 4-point Likert scale, and 92.6% of families said that they were highly satisfied, which was the highest rating for the educational program, and another 100% said that they would recommend it to a friend. We know that Little Hornet, most of our marketing happens within the community by word of mouth, and families are very pleased with the program. So families also gave numerous positive comments. I included a couple right there. In addition to creating the strong family partnerships that we did this year, we also strengthened partnerships with other educational institutions. We were able to host a interim teacher from Central Michigan University in the fall, and then we also had 8 additional LCC student teacher placements this year, divided between the fall and spring semesters and 2 different classrooms. We will continue that partnership next year and years and beyond with either Central, Grand Valley, and LCC. This not only is wonderful for the early childhood educational community, because institutions are really finding it hard to place their students in good quality environments. And so Little Hornets is a very quality environment to place their teachers. In addition, I watch my teachers grow as professionals as they gain more confidence in sharing their intentionality and why they teach and why they do what they do with others in the profession. So it's really beneficial on a variety of levels. One of the biggest impacts that we had is that we implemented the Connect for Learning curriculum this year, and that has been a path of growth for the teachers, growth for the students, and growth for myself as an administrator. Let's see. Okay. So just kind of a reminder, we adopted this Connect for Learning curriculum because it really focused a lot on those metacognition skills. It was very interdisciplinary. It incorporated literacy and math and social emotional all intertwined in lessons. And it had a really strong research-based trajectory of the skill sequence in which children develop and in which teachers implement those skills. A couple of the biggest highlights that we had was we did a lot of analysis of the curriculum, a lot of discussion amongst the teachers, and the most noticeable impact on student achievement was in literacy and mathematics scores. The curriculum places a greater emphasis on the depth of learning rather than a wide variety of surface learning. And we really want children to have those strong foundational skills prior to going into kindergarten. The more depth that you have, the better you are to apply it at later times. So as a result, the most significant increases were on the phonological skills, manipulating those sounds within words, breaking words apart into syllables, playing with the sounds of language. We saw a 20% increase of student achievement at benchmark in the spring than was there at the fall. So that was a pretty significant increase. The other area we saw a significant notable increase was in mathematical concepts, specifically identifying number concepts and quantity. Looking at a set of objects, understanding that quantity within that object, and then manipulating that set into smaller objects. Those are the really solid foundations of mathematical learning and will be used in every single other mathematical skill throughout their career. And lastly, again, we said we learned a lot of positive lessons as we engaged in discussions with my teachers, as teachers engaged in discussions together. And throughout all of this, teachers were challenged. They were taken out of their comfort zone of their familiar curriculum that they've known. And we know anytime you take it out, you're like, oh, what do we do? But the teachers really leaned on each other. They had really great professional conversations with the goals of student achievement. So the students were always at the heart of all of those conversations, the why of what we're doing it, and the teachers really maintained that positive mindset and got momentum and confidence to move into next year. So family engagement is a key aspect of our preschool programming as well as the curriculum. And so at the end of each unit, there are 6 units in this curriculum that we progress through the year, there's a culminating experience that ties all of their learning in together and allows them to showcase their learning to others. Sometimes this learning can be just a simple display in the classroom. Other times it can be an all-encompassing. So what you see in a couple of here is the top left corner is a museum. And I'm going to see if I can go back one screen. What did I do? So the bottom left corner is a map of a museum. And the children and the teachers came together and drew a map. This is a great example of an interdisciplinary activity and experience. It correlates literacy skills, mathematical spatial relations, and then what they did is they invited families in to share their learning. So the top corner is your museum exhibit, and they had a variety of still life exhibits, of collections that they were sorting, sculptures that they made, and the children led their families around and they were docents for the day. The other 3 pictures are examples of the garden party at the conclusion of the growing unit. And in this example, the teachers and students set out various activities, and the students walked their families through the different activities, taste testing, sharing how the seeds grew. The bulletin board that the little girl in the center is pointing to is, it was a accumulating bulletin board in which they started with the soil and then they added as the unit went on. But with this process, it allows the children to share what they learned with others, take responsibility for their learning. You saw the confidence and the pride that they had in themselves, and it really engaged the families and other stakeholders. We invited some of our administration from the buildings as well as some of the peers and teachers of the classroom, but it allowed students to showcase their learning. We also had a very favorable response. We're 92% attendance rate on some of those classes. This slide just shows a little bit of the preschool achievement data. It breaks it down into the different areas. Social and emotional development is always first and foremost at the preschool level. We want children to be confident in who they are. We want them to be cooperative members of a group. We want them to have those skills to be an independent learner outside of their family unit, and the preschool environment allows that to happen and to build that independence. We saw a great growth in social emotional development, and so you can see that the children going off to kindergarten, our kindergarten programs, are about at that 80 percentile at benchmark for most of the areas of development. What you have to take into consideration is that these numbers are for all of the children who are going to a kindergarten program, so some are going to kindergarten and some are going to young fives. So when you look at that data does help to assist families in making that choice of where might be a good placement for the next school year. So just for next steps, we talked a little bit about Kids Corner enrollment occurred in the spring, Kids Corner and Little Horn enrollment. We are at capacity for most of our programs. The Great Start Readiness program still has some spaces available, and we're going to do some target recruitment activities through the summer programs to make sure that those opportunities are available to families who are really in need. And then we will also do our professional development focus for next year will still revolve around the curriculum implementation, getting teachers, again, we talked about the surface level of learning for students. We want a deep understanding for teachers as well, right? This first year we got a surface level. Next year we're going to really dive really, really deep, and hopefully that will impact more student achievement. And then we're always constantly working towards increased family involvement with the different safety and security protocols that the district has put into place. We want to find new creative ways to involve our families in our classrooms and our learning. Any questions on Any of those education updates or anything about our programs that I can share?
You talked about, in the last slide, you mentioned the capacities in the preschool. What are the capacities on Kids Corner?
So right now, about 45 is our capacity
That is,
before
okay.
school. There has been some different licensing updates and guidelines which have capped group sizes. And so where we were able to do about 42 in a classroom, now we're down to 36. And so it really does depend on staffing and room placement. And so that it does go with different age groups. So we're really at our capacity.
For both before and after?
Yeah.
Okay,
Yeah.
thank you.
We did get more people who want before school care with the change in start and end time, so we're doing our best to accommodate that, but we do have a waiting list right now.
So I just want to say that Harper was in Little Hornets a couple years back, and I just want to say that this program goes above and beyond to support students and families, and it really is. I look back and I see the testaments from families, and I agree 100%. And this is a high-quality, evidence-based program that we are really lucky to have in our community. And thank you for bringing this forward. I know it's a new curriculum, and like you said, there are bumps in the road, and that's to be expected. But it seems like it has more of like a project approach influence to it.
It does. The end product is towards the project approach. There is a lot more. The projects do seem to be a little bit disconnected the way the curriculum is written. Teachers are striving to make that a little bit more cohesive and that end project more cohesive. So a lot of the professional development will be around learning targets for the entire unit, as well as how to get from point A to point B and maintain student motivation. So there's a little bit, a true project approach really built in a lot more student motivation. This one doesn't seem to be written as much in the framework of the curriculum, and so that's going to be more on teachers, teacher impact.
Well, this is very exciting. Thank you.
Does anybody else have questions before I jump in? Do you know how many, first, I do want to echo what Sarah says, like your interventions and your curriculum leads right into some of that kindergarten interventions and stuff. There's a really good collaboration between Little Hornets and our kindergarten and fives programs, which is so appreciated. So do you know, I didn't ask this before, so if you don't know the right number, like average, how many of our Little Hornet students go to our Young Five kindergarten programs?
So I would say about 90% go to a kindergarten program in Williamston. A couple will go back to their home districts, Weberville or Okemos or Hazlitt, but the majority of them start at Little Hornets because they want to be in Williamston School District and they want to maintain that same group of kids throughout high school and graduation. You talk about seeing those kids at graduation, and I could pick out all of our Little Hornets.
Is there, do we, and this is just a question probably more for you, if a student from a different district goes to Little Hornets and then wants to do, has to school a choice, is there any, like, they get a leg up because they went to Little Hornets, or it's totally different, separate?
Yeah, they have to meet the,
The requirements and apply?
mostly, yeah, it just has to be a C mostly, and then obviously apply within the window.
Yep. And I would mimic and agree with that. We help parents to go through the steps of transitioning to a kindergarten program and provide them with all of the information that they need to be successful in that transition. But we really reiterate that we are a private tuition-based program, that we're lucky to be connected to Williamston Schools, but we are a separate entity, and it does not provide preferential treatment of getting into Williamston.
And And then my last question, I know working within the county, daycares, preschools are really hard up for staff. We know teachers, I think Williamston, I think MSU only graduated 100 or 99 teachers this year. I mean, this is like a tough time for educators. Are you finding that you're having a hard time getting staff? Or I mean, I know you talked about that a little, and you said you feel like you've got staff and you're going to be set. Are you having? So
I'm extremely excited that this year we will have all 4 of our lead teachers returning for next year. So that is our solid, our tier 1, our base foundation. So I rely heavily on them to work and develop their teams and to train and do one-on-one coaching within their teams. We still will need the CDA route, the Child Development Associate, which is a 2-year degree, which is required for a Great Start assistant teachers. We are finding that it's challenging to recruit those teachers, as well as the before and after school caregivers. It's an extremely difficult timeline to staff, and so we're just trying to really be creative and utilize people across a lot of programs within the districts. We've got cross departments from transportation, food service, so that's what we're trying to work through. And different departments have been really working together. That's a great part of Williamston Community Schools, that the departments really work together for the success of kids.
And are those assistants like posted now?
So we will be posting in the next day or two, because I just had a couple openings come up. Most of the time, though, with those part-time positions, I find that if I post too early,
That's what I wanted
it's too far down the road. And so I've taken time and I've trained them. And with childcare and preschool, you have to go through a lot. The hiring process is very rigorous. We have to do a separate fingerprint process. We have to do a minimum of 8 to 10 hours of just initial basic health and safety training in addition to our CPR. So we have to put forth a lot of monetary funds to onboard staff, and I want to make sure that they're going to stay. And so the ideal would be to get them through the summer, but my summer people are a lot of college students that are coming back to work in the summer camp program, which is very engaging for our summer campers.
One more. I know you're presenting on Little Hornet Preschool, but thinking about this summer, since I have you in front of us, what do the summer numbers look like for Kids Corner?
So the summer numbers for Kids Camp is we have about 14 to 16 preschoolers a day, and we capped it at that just because of a lot of the commotion that's going to be around our building this summer, is that we didn't want a lot of commotion and a huge number of preschoolers to overwhelm them. So we felt that that was a number that we could really maintain their safety and the integrity of the program. We have about 46 daily kids campers, and that is based on our room capacities. The 2 rooms that we are going to be using this summer have a licensed capacity of 23, and so we will have 46 for each day, and that enrollment is done and solid and full for the summer.
And I'm ready to go next week.
Pretty close, yeah?
Good.
Okay.
Any other questions?
I just had, on the graph between can you explain the difference between the emerging and accomplished?
Yes, so emerging would be that they are moving towards that skill, and each area has a different indicator. So all of our assessments are along a continuum. And so for instance, let's take alphabetic knowledge. So alphabetic knowledge, the continuum would be like the child knows 0 letters. And then a level 1 might be the child knows 1 or 2 letters within their name. A level 3 would be the child knows up to 5 letters. And so everything is a continuum as opposed to here's a benchmark, you're above it or below it. And so with this, they identify a kindergarten readiness skill for alphabetic knowledge as knowing 10 letters or above. So if on this particular one, they've looked at what is the kindergarten readiness benchmark. And so if accomplished, it's children over that benchmark, regardless of how much over they are. They could be 10 letters, 15 letters, 26, or all upper and lowercase. And emerging would be that they're anywhere underneath that they might have 4 letters or that. So each category has a different continuum
Okay.
of that.
Thank you. That explains it. I've been looking at it for the last 5 minutes, trying to figure it out in my head.
Our graphs, educational graphs, are not really easy to read to everybody except who's been staring at it for years and years.
Any other questions
Okay.
on this section?
Okay.
Okay.
Okay, so just a really quick on the handbook update is most of the updates were written just to align with the updated district policies or additional clarification between the 2 programs that the handbook addresses, Kids Corner Childcare and Little Hornet Preschool. We have 2 notable changes. The first was to eliminate the traditional family open house and replace it with more individual family and child visits. What we found pre-pandemic, we would engage in these open houses and we would get 100% attendance. Well, 100% attendance means the child was overwhelmed. It was very noisy, chaotic, and the child was overwhelmed, and the intent of the open house was to allow the child to feel comfortable in the environment, and we were actually defeating that purpose. So what we've done is, since the pandemic, we've gone to more individual and family visits so that the child can come into the classroom by themselves with their family and explore, or just with 1 or 2 or 3 other kids in a small group, and then we have this slow transition into school. We found that was very positively received by families. We saw that the children adjusted to school much quicker. There was a lot less separation anxiety. The children were confident on their first day of school, and so we just want to continue with these practices. The beginning of the school, since Little Hornet starts a little bit later, we're able to do these individual family visits and student classroom visits within that same timeline. So that was the first notable difference in the handbook. The second was the change in the Kids Corner inclement weather policy. We're still going to remain open on most days that the district closes due to weather-related circumstances. But over time, we have just found that the attendance, the kids actually arrive at school is closer to 7:15, 7:30, 8 o'clock on those snow days. By pushing the opening and operating time back to 7:30, it allows our staff to get to the building in a safer manner and allows our building maintenance to be able to clear the sidewalks and so students can get into the building safer. I think it will impact families very little because based, like what I said, this is based on the trends that we watched all throughout this year. Students were not arriving that early in the morning on a snow day. Any questions on changes to the handbook?
Again, I would like to reiterate to our other principals in the audience and to you, this is extremely helpful when we're looking at these handbooks. So, thank you very much.
Thank you. Have a good evening.
Thank you.
You. Okay. Next up is Dr. Cook.
Good evening. The extended COVID learning plan still requires the end of the year benchmark to be shared with the board. So I'm not going to go into a lot of detail because I did that in previous board meetings. But before I do share the scores, I would like to just briefly explain again the RIT number that it represents, so you have just some framework as it's up there. So when students finish their math growth tests, they receive a number which is called a RIT score for each of the areas that they're tested. So it could be reading, language, math, or science. The score represents a student's achievement level at any given moment that they've taken the test, and it helps measure their academic growth over time. So an analogy is the RIT scale is a stable scale, and it's just like a ruler. It's just like feet and inches. a measurement that accurately does measure the student's performance, and it's regardless of their age or their grade. It's just a mark, like it would be on a ruler, of their growth as they go up on that scale. And you're able then, just like a child's growth, to be able to see how tall a child is. You're able to see at various points, because we take the NWEA test 3 times a year. You can also see how much they've grown in that subject area. So I wanted to give you that context as you're looking at this. So to make this brief, because I have presented on all of this, I wanted to share happily tonight that we have gained in every grade level. In kindergarten, there was an 11% gain, and the way that they would like us to present this is from fall to spring. So winter is just another measurement, another mark of their growth. But for kindergarten, they had an overall 11% gain. First grade was 22% in reading. Second grade in reading was 15.7 writ. So they combined medium writ went up 15.7 writ. It's not a percentage. Third grade was 10.7, fourth grade 6.6, fifth grade 5.8, sixth 5.3, seventh 4.6, and eighth grade 1.7. And I happened to meet with the coach today of the middle school, and we discussed just briefly why that was lower than normal. I know Chris and I have talked about it, and one of the things that was cited was that particular group of students, when you looked at how quickly they had finished the NWEA test, they really were burnt out with M-STEP and all of the other tests that they had, and you can tell they went very quickly through it. So I think that we'll see better results hopefully in the fall of next year. But every grade did go up in reading. And so now in math, I'm happy to say that we also had all positive gains from our fall. In kindergarten, which by the way, kindergarten and first grade is Ames Web in both reading and math. So it's based on the system that I explained to you back, I think it was February, that I presented. But we had a 19% gain in kindergarten. First grade, 43% gain from the fall. So our MTSS system is what is really driving this, and I'm happy to say that was a tremendous gain. In second grade, the RIT went up 12.3. In third grade, it was 14. In fourth grade, 13.3. In fifth grade, 12.4. Sixth grade, 9.9. Seventh grade, 8.8. And in eighth grade, 5.5 in math. And as you can see in fifth grade, where our numbers maybe weren't as good in the past, 12.4 RIT gain is pretty remarkable. So I'm very excited to present these numbers to you tonight. Are there any questions at all? This will be posted on our website. I have it ready. I just didn't want to give it to Adam because I wanted to make sure it got out there by Friday. We have to post this on our website as part of this extended COVID plan, and it will break it down even by demographics, male, female, special education, ELL, different groups of students. So it's in a little bit of a different format than I presented tonight, but I wanted to share this.
Pretty exciting.
I'm very excited. Yeah.
After the years we've had, this is exciting news.
Yeah, especially in this year. So if you have any other questions, you can always just email me or contact me, stop in and see me. Yeah,
Will
and
we get a chance to separate those testing dates, do you think? Because we don't set those, do we?
we do, and there isn't a way to do it. We have to do NWEA within certain periods between the last time they took a test and the time that they're going to take a test, so it just ends up, it's so close. When they moved M-STEP, that it's hard. In fact, I know for Explore, I've had to even extend the deadline because kids are out sick or there's, a lot of test takers for M-STEP, so we move things back. So it's really hard to do that. Yeah, and when they come at the beginning of the school year, we test right away. So we are ending up, we count, we meet, we plan, just the way that it falls. Yeah. But any questions, just don't hesitate to contact me. But I'm very excited to see this result.
Those are good results.
So thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
You are so welcome.
Okay. You, Dr. Spina.
So superintendent's report.
Yes, thank you.
June 20th meeting, I will give a summary of the summer projects, which there are many. And I will also do a summary of our Nats Law reporting. And then after June, we will set up a time for us to do our special meeting in July. So look out for an upcoming survey on
Okay.
that. Short and sweet.
Yeah. We have not had any board committee reports, so discussion items. I'm going to invite our principals and Dr. Cook back to the podium. And I also congratulations to Mrs. Daniels with her daughter graduating last year, or last night, yesterday. Very exciting.
Thank you.
Very exciting.
Very exciting.
A great graduation ceremony.
Congratulations. So tonight we are here to present our recommendation for our ELA curriculum for both Discovery and Explore. So we're all going to share in this presentation. The presentation does include the rationale, pilot selection, and the priorities that went into that, the timeline of how it was evaluated, the details of the specific program chosen, the cost, the recommendation from us, and then at the end, any questions or discussions that you might like to have. Thank you for doing that.
So can I ask, we'll have questions at the end. Would you like us to hold all of our questions to the end, or do you want us to kind of go slide by slide and ask questions? What do you prefer?
You could go slide by slide since it's up there. I think that would be, very appropriate. So the request, our subscription with Savvis, which was Reading Street, has ended. And they are no longer even offering Reading Street as it has been totally retired. So since the adoption of Reading Street, there have been some changes in best practice. And the focus for ELA best practice has included literacy essentials and, of course, our ELA standards for better student outcomes. So we are now able to focus, since Reading Street is no longer even available, on a curriculum search that aligns with both and has a research-based structure, and it has strategies that help teachers and students engage in important ideas and inquiries. So we focused on that when we were going ahead and looking at the different curriculum to pilot.
So if you remember back in, I think it was early May, Kelly and I presented our school improvement update, and we really hit a lot of this information. So we will go quickly through any redundant information. Okay. So we met as a pilot team starting in the fall, and our pilot team consisted of teachers from every grade level at both elementary buildings. It also included the school administration and our MTSS coordinators at both buildings. We also asked the ISD to provide some support for us through the process as well. And one of the first steps that we went through when starting this process was identifying priorities in both our instructional practices and in the program. And those are listed for you here. Some of the instructional priorities that we really discussed, as Dr. Cook has explained, was one, the essential literacy practices. That is something that our teachers have been studying and implementing into their classrooms for several years now. So we really wanted to make sure that all of that work and all of the great practices that they've incorporated into their classroom was now also being included in our new curriculum that we are bringing in. We also really wanted to make sure that our ELA curriculum focused on those foundational skills. So we're really setting our students up for success as they continue on in their education process. We also really focused on a program that would really provide student engagement. Through our last program, we really found over the last few years that we were seeing that student engagement piece was missing. So we really wanted to make sure that whatever we were bringing to our students for next year really included that element.
And regarding what we were looking for as a whole in a program, we were looking for a program that had structure and the resources needed to implement with fidelity. Something that was realistic with the time frame in a normal school schedule in a given day, thinking about all the other things that have to be taught at the same time. Something that didn't overextend our teachers trying to get through things quickly just to say we hit on everything. And we wanted a program that would align with other building priorities such as our MTSS structure, and a program that would grow with the developmental needs of all of our students. So then this started exactly about a year ago as we reached out to our consultants at the ISD and said, all right, we're ready. We need your help in getting a very systematic process going to find our next reading program. So that was back in June, and by September we had come up with a plan that allowed us to pick our pilot team, have teachers come forth, say, yep, I'm willing to put forth some time and effort, I'd like to be on this team. So that was K-5. We were looking for 2 teachers at each grade level. They then met for different times for over 8 hours to review 5 different programs. And we used a very defined process that was led by the ISD. And that was a whole new experience for most of us. And it made us feel really good about the outcomes because it was so meticulous. And those ISD consultants really held us to the task of going through every step of this process. So once we had gone through the background knowledge of 5 different programs, then we were able to narrow it down to 2 that we thought really spoke to our 2 elementary buildings, and we got going with the training on those 2 programs for our pilot teachers. And then they spent 6 to 8 weeks implementing the programs in their classroom, and lots of discussion came out of all of this, and the teachers kind of said this is the program that we want to adopt. We really, both buildings ended up landing on the same one. We weren't telling them they have to be on the same one, but there's probably a lot of very positive things about the fact that we did land on the same program, which is bookworms. So that then was brought to Dr. Cook as our recommendation. So, and now we're here to you. So a whole year later, we're ready to make that recommendation after lots of time and effort went in on behalf of our teachers implementing this in the classroom.
Part of the pilot process is looking at research on the various programs that we were considering. So we have provided here for you tonight a paragraph from Ed Reports, which is specific to the Bookworms program. And this paragraph really highlights the positive components of the Bookworms program. And then we went ahead and highlighted, so all of the components that are in yellow, those are items that we also identified as priorities for our building for the students and staff needs. So we really feel that this speaks to how aligned this program is for the specific needs in our building. There was a lot of common pieces there. Well, the pilot process was completed, so at the very end, when we were done with our 6 to 8 week pilot process in the classrooms, each building's pilot teams met to discuss obviously which directions that we wanted to go. And here we have identified a lot of the main points and the specific details that allowed us to land on bookworms. So specifically for discovery, 3 big pieces, 3 big takeaways for us were the effective and engaging routines that the curriculum provided. It was really easy for the kids of all levels to follow, and it was very engaging. And the teachers found that they really thrived in the environment that they were in due to the routines of the program. They spoke strongly about the writing curriculum and the piece, that writing piece is naturally brought into the curriculum. And they talked at length about how this was very developmentally appropriate for our young learners. The books were engaging, they were on topics that were of interest for the kiddos, and we really just felt that it met the needs of our youngest learners.
This will sound very familiar to what Cassie just said, but our top bullet point up there was engagement. I heard over and over and over from the teachers and the kids. They're ready for something different. It was so nice to see them engaged again with reading material. So high student engagement was probably one of our biggest wows out of this. It meets a range of learning needs, and there was an increased amount of time reading and writing in the class, in the program. More students getting that active involvement with the program. And then they loved the word study and vocabulary instruction and how it connected to the texts that they were reading, and really, really thought highly of the writing instruction as well, and that it was really, it's a very developed, a well-developed writing component that's aligned to the standards and very well supported by mentor text, so it really integrates the reading and the writing.
So I know one of the most important things is the program cost. And with the help of the ISD, we were able to negotiate a total cost of $119,160. And one of the nice parts about this is we anticipated the purchase of the new ELA curriculum, because we obviously have a timeline of when curriculum is purchased and when it's going to be recycled. And so we knew this was a need for both buildings, and the amount of the program had already been budgeted and approved under the ARP ESSER 3 budget. So we were well within that guideline there. And the cost did include all materials for both teachers and students for both buildings. So we were lucky to be able to have that cost covered totally with that. You want to go ahead? Thank you. Our recommendation is that Bookworms does align to the ELA standards and to the essential practices. The program structure itself, it does incorporate both reading and writing, as Pam and Cassie have both said, and it does include differentiation of instruction, which I've heard a lot. And we're actually pre-buying a book that is not even part necessarily of this program, but talks about how teachers can use differentiation and best practice to be able to help support our teachers do the best job that they can. And it scaffolds a lot of the foundational skills, including fluency, comprehension, and building knowledge and vocabulary. And there's a screening and diagnostic assessment part to this, which is always really good, because it's hard sometimes when you have a program and you're using an assessment that doesn't align with that actual program, and you're getting results that don't really measure what you're trying to measure. So the program, it does promote engagement and the love of reading by providing levels of books that meet students at their foundational level where they are present. And the Elementary ELA Pilot Committee and myself are recommending the adoption of Bookworms for both buildings, K-5. So any questions?
You talk about recycling of a curriculum after so many years. Do we have an idea of how long this curriculum will last the district?
So this is a different type of curriculum. We're actually purchasing trade books. And so this would be kind of a forever. You know that word is obviously never forever, but we don't have to repurchase. It's not something that the actual trade books, we're probably going to have to add, I am assuming down the road as they look, and the student books, the student workbooks will have to be refurbished and provided, but it's not a textbook such that has an online component that's going to go away in 4 or 5 years. So it's a very different lens.
Great.
Yeah.
Does each classroom teacher get a set of trade books
Yes.
for the room?
And for, which is kind of nice, in that price, for the 3-5, every student will have their own copy of books. So that was included in the negotiation of the price.
And I have a second question. How early does the program introduce the students to informational text?
I think it's embedded from the beginning.
From the beginning?
Yeah, so at the
Glad to hear.
kindergarten level, it's more the teachers read aloud and shared stories, but it starts right from the beginning.
Great, sounds good.
And we're going to look into the professional development. There's many different offerings that the company from Bookworms open up, allows us to look at. And so we're still moving forward with that, but we want the teachers to have the best professional development they possibly can have so that they're ready to go in the fall and feel comfortable with the program itself. So, any other questions, don't hesitate to reach out to I keep doing that, to the buildings or myself. Drop it.
I think you had another question.
I just have one question. So since it's a trade, would we be able to get a list of the trade books? I think there's probably like 270 or something, a list so that we can see the books that are.
I
And
have a copy with me if you want it, I guess.
Perfect,
Yeah.
that'd be great. You can email.
Yeah,
Fine.
perfect.
So if we approve this, can you remind us when you would actually be able to get it?
I would be ordering that as soon as possible, and I believe that the turnaround is pretty quick on the books they already have in stock. So if I'm not mistaken, within a
I
few
think
weeks.
They said 5 to 6 business days.
Yeah.
And then will our special ed teachers be getting the same curriculum, or is there a component to that, or?
There is a
There's-
differentiated part to it,
So-
but actually, yes, but now I'll put on my special ed hat. With some other funds, we've been able to really purchase some other great curriculum. Orton Gillingham has gotten very popular, and we're going to use that in the MTSS manner as a whole. Like, we are actually having teachers trained in MTSS with Orton Gillingham, but there's something called Barton reading, and we are purchasing that for our special educators. We are purchasing some other specific curriculum. So there'll be a differentiation between, let's say, Tier 1 in the classroom, and they'll have differentiated books as well that MTSS will be able to use, but then there's going to be another layer of Tier 2 and Tier 3, and then there'll be another layer of Tier 4 and special education with multi-curriculum pieces, because all kids, as you know, don't learn the same way. So,
Nice.
yeah, I'm very excited about that. I'm starting to order tomorrow. Thank you, Sarah, for that.
Yay. Do you have any other questions? Okay.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
It's up to you.
You can go ahead.
Okay,
Sorry.
you're fine. Okay, so, this is the wrong one. I need sorry. This one's next.
She's going to update us on our budget.
Yes.
This one?
Yes, please. Thank you so much.
Our budget, money.
Yeah, so I'm presenting both on the 21-22 final budget as well as the 22-23 original budget today. So, that's my job. Okay, so on this first slide, you'll
So,
see.
I'm sorry, is the clicker not really working? Am I in the way? 'Cause I think-
No, it's working. I
Okay.
forgot I needed
Okay.
to be the one to use it.
They have control too, and I'm like, am I in the way?
No, you're good.
Okay, so
Okay.
go ahead.
All right, so that first column you'll see, that's our final budget. The second column is the amendment that I presented just a few months ago. And then the third column is our adjustment between the two. You'll notice we have about a $382,000 decrease in revenues, a $340,000 decrease in expenditures, and then we removed that transfer out of $500,000 on the third line down. So if you recall, that $500,000 was what we were setting aside as kind of a safety net for our salary increases that we've negotiated over the next few years. We had a few options for how we could handle that. We did think it would be best that we contribute that to fund balance as opposed to putting it into like our capital projects fund as just a holding point. So we are putting that to fund balance, but we want you to know it is very expected that we will end up drawing on those funds at some point, particularly in year 23, 24 is when we're expecting that big bump in our teacher salaries. Let's see. Okay, so our revenues. So a little more breakdown on our revenues. We have an almost $90,000 increase in our Great Start Readiness Program. So we were just recently informed that we would be getting full funding as if we were enrolled at full capacity, which we were being very conservative before in budgeting based on our actual enrollment, but there's something unique in this year where they're going to give us that full budget. Those funds do get very difficult to spend, so Rebecca's been working diligently to find ways to utilize those. Our federal stimulus funds. So this will decrease by about $485,000, which is mostly our ESSER 2. It's simply because our HVAC updates are going to take place next fiscal year. So the expenses and the revenue have to match, and it's just teetering that timeline is all. Oops, I'm so sorry. Okay, so then a bit of that federal stimulus decrease is a decrease in ESSER 2 revenue. The decrease in ESSER 2 is kind of offset by an increase in our ARP ESSER 3, which is partially the curriculum that Michelle just presented, as well as a few other curriculum purchases that we are hoping to make prior to June 30th or even tomorrow, like Michelle had said. So again, those are just flip-flopping the timeline. All right, so that next $72,000 is our health resource advocate reimbursement. This increased from what we expected to be $20,000 to over $90,000. So we are using that to offset applicable salaries for their time spent on COVID-related tasks. And then there's about a $55,000 decrease in other various revenue sources across the board. Our expenses. So the decrease in contingency line, this is what we plan to contribute to fund balance, and if you recall, when I did my amendment a few months ago, this was about a $90,000 contribution that we were setting aside to put to fund balance. That's decreased by about this $41,000, so we'll now be contributing the remaining $50,000 difference between the two, along with the $500,000 set aside that we had. The next two lines, you'll see we had an increase to curriculum purchases, which is again the ARP ESSER 3, and then the decrease in HVAC. And then just the $27,000 increase to other various expenses. This next one here is our fund balance over the past 10 years. So as I mentioned, we're planning to contribute that $550,000, which would bring our fund balance to $2.8 million or 12.4% of revenues. So again, we do expect to draw from those, especially in 23-24. So, any questions on that budget? Awesome. Thanks, Dave. Okay, so our original budget for next year. All right, so here you'll see first column is our original, second column is the final that I just presented to you, and that third column is the adjustment between the two. You'll notice we have about $251,000 increase in revenues and $702,000 increase in expenditures. With these changes, of course, we do not expect to have that $550,000 contribution, so that's why you can see that difference right in the center there. We only are hoping, or only expecting to contribute about $100,000 this year. Sorry, next year. I knew I was going to mess this all up. Next year, $100,000. So for our revenue adjustments, we budgeted very conservatively with a $350 increase on our per pupil foundation allowance with no change in enrollment. So that would give us about a $702,000 increase. And of course, you know that could change dramatically depending on what the state approves. For property taxes, again, we were being conservative here with just a 1% increase, and that amounted to about $15,000. Our federal stimulus funds will have a net decrease of $171,000. So this is predominantly the removal of our child care stabilization grant that was given to Kids Corner this past fiscal year. We do expect to receive another section of that grant in the coming year. However, since we don't know the timeline on when that is or the dollar amount, I chose not to include it in this budget. So then the next line is that $92,000 where I removed our health resource advocate. So again, this is one of those where we do expect to receive funding for 2 health resource advocate positions next year. However, they will be a wash because we will also be taking on those expenditures, where last year it was more to offset salaries we already had. So it's just handled a little differently this coming year. We will not have our emergency connectivity funds for technology purchases next year. That was about $117,000. We'll have a decrease of $43,000 in miscellaneous local revenue, and that's really because last year we received tuition reimbursement from Oakland Community Schools that we should not expect this coming year. And then approximately a $41,000 decrease in other various revenue sources, including like our ticket sales registrations, 310, and private grants predominantly. Expenses. So this next one is our expenses here. You'll see an increase in salaries of just over $1 million. Of course, this is our increased negotiated contracts for next year. We also are increasing our building subs as well as additional para positions that we're adding and 2 technology technicians. Decrease in contracted services of $22,000. That includes an increase in our ISD payroll contracted amount. If you recall, this year they only charged us for half of the year because they weren't able to fulfill the full contract. So we're getting charged the full year this coming year. And then that increase is offset by a decrease in our technology contract with Hazlitt, as well as the removal of our COVID testers. So the next there is an increase of $100,000 in utilities. So I've just increased this to make up for inflation. That we were hit pretty hard by that increase this year, and I'm expecting a little bit more even next year. So just bump that up a bit. That next line should say decrease in contingency. So I'm sorry to increase it. The number is showing a decrease, but I wrote increase. So of course, for the 21-22 fiscal year, we expected that $550,000. This year, we're only expecting $100,000 to be contributed to fund balance, so that difference is the $450 you see there. Our ESSER line items here, ARP ESSER 3 and ESSER 2 HVAC, those are just the reverse impact of the changes I made in our 21-22 budget. And again, that's just due to the timing. Emergency connectivity funds, the ECF expenses, that's the $117,000 of revenue we're not receiving for that, so we also will not have the offsetting expenses. And then just $24,000 miscellaneous expense adjustments there. So again, here is our fund balance over the past 10 years. Again, estimating $100,000 increase to fund balance at the close of 22-23 fiscal year. That would bring our fund balance to $2.9 million or 12.7% of revenues.
I like we should have a drum.
Yeah. But we should expect, just so we know, so the next year we'll see a drop in our fund balance, so it's not because of actual
Right.
wins. We're knowing that now.
Yeah, just kind of pending what we think we'll get in state aid and things like that, and just
Could
how
be
things shake
planned,
out in
but
general.
You never know.
Yeah, so you just being conservative.
We would like to,
The
Thank
plan from the previous budget though was to take that $500,000 and use it as a buffer for the next couple of years. But you gotta put it somewhere. So the
Yeah.
some in the fund balance, but it's already been kind of earmarked
Yeah.
as that buffer. It just, there wasn't really anywhere else to put it, so.
Yeah, we don't want you to be shocked when we draw on
Yeah.
it,
Right.
if we need to draw on it, so.
But I still would like to, some of you weren't on the board at the time, but I would like to show you like the 2014-2015 year when we were at 1.1%. In, you know, the past board, our past administration did some amazing things and kept our education in the classroom, you know, curriculum and all of that. But for many years, if we had a teacher that, you know, used our sick bank, we would not have been able to make payroll. Like, we were that close to having nothing. And, you know, that previous board said, and I guess I don't know who was on that, Chris and Sarah, or was who, said we cannot live in this, we can't live in this world anymore. We just can't. And, you know, thank goodness Adam agreed to that, and I do appreciate, I do, again, want to state to all of our administrators and staff, and to Adam, who really stuck to that, and we didn't want for anything. Adam has some magical power where he found grant money for things and was able, I really don't know how our finance people came up with all of the funds that they did and scraped and saved and got us to this point. Also, you know, COVID was a horrible, devastating thing on our students, but it also gave us some extra finances on the other side to pay for things way ahead of schedule than what we thought we were going to be able to. So I do thank all of you for your hard work at getting this up, because I feel like we can all breathe a little easier right now than what we could have 8 years ago. So thank you, both of you, all of you. Are there any questions about this? If you have any questions or think about something, or there is something you didn't totally understand, I do really encourage you to reach out. School funds are a tricky thing. They're not like keeping your home bank account. And with our bond coming up, and with you know, elections and all of that, sometimes you get some people that don't totally understand how this works and kind of spread some misinformation, and they're going to be looking at you at a football game, at a basketball game, out at soccer, wherever, to kind of answer some questions and get some knowledge on this. And so I encourage, if you need more of an education, to reach out to say
I'll do my
Susan.
best.
I guess
Yeah.
you could also reach out to Adam, either one. But I would get the information, make sure you really understand it, because in the next couple of months, the community is going to come out about different things on this budget, and we need to be able to have the correct information to help explain, or we need to be able to send them to Adam.
I just want to say, before you say something, Adam, because it's a key word, I appreciate the more conservative approach that you are putting forth, and I think
Thank you.
that the other board members that have been on this board since it was a 1.1%, and there are certain teachers and staff that have really supported the thinking of the board here too, that we can't live day to day, like Nancy was saying, and it is a drastic change, but it took time to get to where we are right now, and now we can breathe a sigh of relief, but we also still, some of us do have that mindset of, well, we could be back, you know, so it's nice
Right.
to have a conservative approach to things, so thank you for that.
Thank you.
This is always, it's a state law, we have to present this and submit a balanced budget by the end of the month, but not to keep reiterating this, but it is important to understand that Sarah spends hours and hours and hours looking at
Every account.
it's a lot of information taken, but it's all based on estimates, right, and hypotheticals. And so, you know, we don't know enrollment, and we don't know what our state aid, our per pupil allocations are going to be from the state, which are the two biggest variables in terms of how we're funded every year. So without that information, there's a lot of calculations and estimates that go into creating a budget for a year that hasn't started yet. So, you know, just keep that in mind too. I always take this with a grain of salt. That's why the amendments are presented to the board, both with the audit in November and then the other amendments that are presented throughout the school year as we adjust based on facts versus educated guesses.
Any other
Thank you.
questions? Yes, thank you.
Thank you.
Okay, proposed meal prices.
So we put this on as a place marker, a placeholder. MDE has not yet released a tool that food service uses to calculate what an appropriate price for school meals will be. So we're hoping that they'll have that tool released by this week or next, and so that Jim Davis, our food service director, can use it to calculate what meal prices should look like for next year. A reminder to the board that unless something changes at the federal level or the state does something miraculous, that we will go back to a traditional process where meals are paid for, obviously unless there's a financial circumstance that warrants that exception. So, but I'm hoping to get that to you next meeting, provided that the tool is released by ND so that those calculations can be made.
Do you have any idea, did we see an increase of students taking lunch because it was free this year? Or
I don't have, anecdotally, yes, I don't have the numbers with me.
But I just wondering if you noticed
Probably had an increase of students eating double lunch, maybe. Well,
I mean, this year was a challenge with food service in general, just because
Right,
we
getting
couldn't
food,
finding
yeah.
food was, you know, a new challenge that we hadn't encountered before. And then food prices went up 17%. So this year it wasn't a big deal because they were reimbursed mostly through, you know, federal subsidies. But moving into next year, it's something that, you know, kind of a preview. The cost for the district is going to go up significantly, and that's why that tool is so important, so that an accurate calculation can be made based on those variables.
Okay. So if we get, I mean, we've discussed that, if we get actual numbers in 2 weeks, can we go ahead and vote on that?
Yeah, I mean, obviously that would be at the prerogative of the board. If you felt like approving it that evening, you can do it, or we can move it to an action item at the special meeting in July, so
So either way.
either way.
Okay, next up, Michigan's Association of School Board Membership Dues, possible district video. We typically we pay dues for MASB. This helps us get any classes. I mean, we have to still pay for some of that. There's a lot of stuff, you know, there's lobbying, legal counsel, member assistant, board development, resources, our health benefits, property, our district receives and savings. So that is something we will keep up with. If any of you guys have any questions or anything, you can let us know. I'm not sure what the possible district video is, though, sorry.
Can we take that?
Yeah,
So
please.
MASB just has a special deal they're offering to support the creation of a district informational video or promotional video. As the board might recall, prior to COVID, we were kind of doing one of these a year. I think the last one was the Leaders in STEAM video, which has been viewed a lot. So we're looking at doing this, and there's a cost of $2,000. That's a pretty good.
Is that cheaper than what we paid when we've done this before?
Well, we had a community member that was basically doing those for free. I mean, we paid a nominal cost, but the amount of time he put in was, you know, way more.
Pretty
You know,
significant.
we also don't want to go to the well too often. I mean, it was a lot of work. So I think this is a fair price for a professional production, and I mean, it's $2,000, but in the grand scheme of things, I think it's really well spent. And there's a story to tell. We can take those things and messages, put it through the video, and have something that we can produce for the community.
If we did the video, would they, like they would come out, they would produce it, you'd work with them, you'd star in it?
No,
And
well, no.
I thought I'd slide that in, anyone catch that?
No, I would definitely not be the star of the video, but they would come out and do that. They do multiple rounds of editing.
And then they just hand us over like the flash drive and we can use it however we want. Okay. Are there any questions about doing that?
What about the writing of what we're saying in the video? Do they do that too?
Wait, in the past, and I imagine this would be the same, it's done through kind of like a pre-scripted interview process. So we'll talk to the folks that we're going to bring in to participate. They'll know the questions that will be asked, and then it's usually kind of like a give and take. You know, with camera questions, they respond, and then it's edited so that the final presentation looks very smooth. So I think that's how it would work. And with all the previous videos, you know, we contacted folks ahead of time, they agreed to be in it, and then we kind of coordinated the logistics and the script prior to shooting. So I think this would be very similar.
Awesome.
So, are we ready to move these 4 items on for action for our meeting in 2 weeks? Also with the proposed meal prices, we can move that for action if we get those prices, and we can make a motion and discuss it if there was any concerns, if they were outrageous, I guess, or if we had any thoughts about that. So are we comfortable moving all 4 of these?
Yeah.
Yeah.
All right. Next up, can I have a motion for our routine calendar?
Make a motion that the Williamston Board of Education approve the minutes for the special and regular meetings held on May 16th, 2022 as presented.
Do I have a second?
Second.
Dave is second, thank you. Is there any discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? I do not have any roll call items, but I do have some separate action items. So can I have a motion for the approval of the Williamston Middle School Handbook?
I make a motion that the Williamston Board of Education approve the 2022-23 middle school handbook as presented.
Second?
Any discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Okay, thank you, passes. Can I have a motion for the William,
I have a caveat, but I can do that for the motion.
to the middle school one or the high
High
school?
school.
There'll be discussion.
Okay. So can I get a motion for the Williamston High School Handbook?
I move that the Williamston Board of Education approve the 2022-23 high school handbook as presented.
And a second?
Second.
Dave? So first up, second Dave. Any discussion?
Yeah, sorry, I always forget. First. The change was made to the credit, no credit election process as requested. We're still waiting for confirmation from our attorneys on the searches component that Dr. Delt mentioned at the last meeting. So upon that answer, I'll let the board know. But so just want to make sure you know there's still that one variable that's not, we don't have an answer to yet from our attorney.
Are we comfortable moving forward with this? Okay. All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Okay. Can I get a motion to approve the Freshman Connect program?
Make a motion that the Williamston Board of Education approve the Freshman Connect program as presented.
Do I have a second?
Second.
Any discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Passes, thank you. Can I get a motion for the panic alarm upgrade?
Make a motion that the Williamston Board of Education approve purchase of the Centurion Elite EOS 130 panic alarm system at the cost not to exceed $45,532. Monies for this purchase will come from a $50,000 line item allocation of ESSER 3 ARP funds. The Board of Education also approves using the balance of this ESSER 3 allocation to purchase components to upgrade public address systems at applicable schools in compensation of the district consultation assisting this initiative.
Can I make a clarification on that? It's $43,532 for the record, and I'll second it.
Any discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Okay, thank you, passes. Can I please get a motion for administrative salary recommendation?
I make a motion that the Williamston Board of Education approve the salaries for district administration for administrative employees for the 2022-23 school year as presented.
Second? Oh, good.
Second, Dave. Any discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Okay, board policies. We have a group that need to be removed, we have a group that's revised, and a group that's added. So do I have a motion?
Move the Williamston Board of Education approve removal of the following board policies as they are covered in other existing policies or administrative procedures / systems. 7840, substitute teaching, 7900, school improvement, and 7910, site-based decision making.
I have a second?
Second?
I'm sorry, was that Julie?
Second, yeah.
Yeah, that was Julie.
Second, Julie. Any discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion passes. Can I get a motion for the revised policies?
Make a motion that the Williamston Board of Education approve revisions to the following board policies as presented: 80-20 attendance, 80-50 absences and excuses, 80-55 changing student grades, 81-30 searches of lockers and students, and 81-40 interrogation and investigations conducted at school.
Do I have a second?
Second.
Any discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries. Can I please get a motion to add 2 policies?
I
Move
move
that
that
the
the,
Williamston Board of Education approve the addition of the following board policies: 8150, use of detection dogs, and 8160, collaboration with outside entities.
Do I have a second?
seconded?
Second, Deb. Any discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Any
Aye.
opposed? Next, we have our board goals that are written there. We have not received any correspondence. Now is time for citizen comments. We have no citizen comments at this time. Any board member reports or requests? I would like to add, this is the last board meeting, not of June, but the last board meeting for the school year. So I do want to thank, all of our administrators and staff. Every year we say this is a difficult year, not every year, but during this COVID, we constantly say this, and it's been really fun to watch our sports teams and our drama and our arts and our band come out and perform, and the kids have just really embraced it, and the amount of sports teams that we have going to states, our arts, our students that are in the arts winning awards, our bands, getting all of the medals and accolades, and our choir. It's just been a really tough year for them, but they have really persevered and have been pretty resilient, and I thank everyone involved, and each and every one of you. Some of these board meetings haven't been easy, and so I thank you for hanging in there and getting our work done. It's been very much appreciated. I also want to thank everyone who was involved in graduation yesterday. It was really nice to be back together and see those kids graduate and how excited they were.
It always seems to go so smoothly, but there's a lot of planning involved. And
It does. I think, it goes so smoothly that you don't realize how much planning goes involved and how much running around it is. And so it was really nice. It was pretty special for those families. Anything else? Anything?
oh, I'm sorry. Yes. 2 things. I just want to say thank you to Ms. Durling, Ms. Smith, and Mrs. Carr for inviting us. They had a garden party last week or the week before, but it was the most gorgeous day for it. And the young fives, both classrooms, got up on the podium and nobody fell. But they
was
sang,
adorable.
and it was so lovely. Oh, and Mrs. Herrick as well had these garden decorations all over, and the children were working hard on singing songs, making artwork, and planting in the raised garden beds. And it was just really lovely to have
That was really nice.
that. So,
Can I say one thing on that too? I was talking to Mrs. Durling, and she had said that, I was really impressed because she had said that throughout the summer, she's got parents that have already signed up to take care of all of the beds throughout the garden throughout the summer, and so
yeah.
everything will continue.
So water will be available. They have this nice rainwater tub that will be there so that it can be maintained over the summer, which is nice because that hasn't always been the case to where it's been maintained. And so I think that with the help of community members and maybe even Kids Corner will help out as well. So That was really lovely. And the second thing is, I would like to make a request that at our next board meeting, we have a discussion around what we talked about last week when I made the request to have information about the PC for band individuals. I would like to have some discussion around that.
Okay. So we can add it on as a discussion item. Is there any, I'm trying to think, information that we need?
We did get that.
So right now, I don't want to, like, I'm just trying to think of things, what more we need. We have gotten, so for some of you who haven't been on the board, the state does allow us to allow students who are in marching band to swap out their half a credit for marching band, or for PE, if they are in marching band. So we have developed through the years a different, lots of information on this, which I think Adam probably has. So we know what surrounding schools do. We gathered some information last year about this. I requested, I think Adam sent that out in one of his updates, like how many students actually do this, how many actual band students are doing this. So if there's any other information that we need to really discuss this, I do feel as a board this comes up, it seems like every year this time, I feel like we need to have some real discussion on it, and we need to kind of make a decision. Whether we
Yeah, and that's
decide
where I
to
think
do this
the-
now,
the
or,
discussion would
yeah,
come
so
from.
I just am not sure if there's other information we might need for this. So I guess if you have thoughts, please let me know, and then maybe we can figure out what else we need. I guess I don't know, maybe the high school has some things, or I'm not sure. But yes, we can put it on for discussion. It's probably a good idea. Let's have some discussion around it and decide where we go from there. Any other requests? I do have one other one. I'm sorry, I wrote this down. I have been on this board since we have been giving out that, I keep wanting to call it a Hornet Award. That's not it. It's the Distinguished Alumni Award, I think. I have listened to numerous speakers. Some are better than others. This woman who spoke yesterday was fabulous. She was on point. She did a great job. I really, one of my favorites, if not my favorite. So I just want to, not that her dad might be listening, I don't know, but she was fabulous.
Well, she gave the kids the message that you can change your course at any time in your life.
And absolutely, you
And
don't have
it'll
to
be
go in
okay,
thinking
so-
I'm going to be, yes.
You can pivot at any point.
Constantly.
And she pivoted lots and has a fabulous career. And I was talking to her earlier, she said, I tell my employees all the time, like when they're hired, if you ever are crying at your desk, it's time to have a conversation. Like, or we need to have a conversation before you get to that point. It's okay. And I think that is such a strong message to our students. It's okay. It's totally okay to pivot when you need to and change.
But she pivoted big because she went to entrepreneurial too. I mean, this is like,
She
she
pivoted.
took her skills, found something that was missing, implemented it, created her own business from it, her own
Yeah,
enterprise, so it was good.
it was really good. She did a great job, so, okay. Anything else?
I just have one that I think we probably should change our board goal regarding our fund balance, since that's through 2023, and maybe maintain a minimum of 10%. Maybe put that instead of increase to, considering we've exceeded that, and
So how do we, is that, our board goals are written, when do we write these?
it says through 2023, so that's the only, so it would go through next school year.
Next
so that's the
year.
only
Well,
reason.
we adjusted it last year, too. Didn't we adjust it last year?
Seems like
Yeah, I mean, 10% was kind of the
Yeah.
threshold. I think we're interpreting it that way to maintain 10%.
Yeah.
Because it gets harder and harder to do as I know I'm not a lawyer, sorry.
You're
But
not
as
on
Yeah.
board.
But as your revenues go up, then it becomes harder to maintain the percentage because the percentage becomes a higher number, right?
Mhm.
So not knowing what next year looks like, we don't have any solid numbers, and then we know we're gonna have a bubble year, the year after that, where we're gonna have some very high one-year expenses. mean, we're kind of interpreting it as not to drop below 10%, even though 10% 2 years from now, the actual dollar number will look more than what it is right now, just because of the way the equation works.
And these go through next year, and then it would be January, technically January of 2024, that we would be writing new goals. So maybe this is something we need to look at in January, whether we redo this, or I guess I don't know.
I just didn't know if anybody looks at it and assumes without doing the research that we're not already at a 10% because it says increase.
Right, or people want us to spend that 2% because we're above it.
That could be
It's
true.
kind of like, we're gonna have to,
We
so.
probably can spend.
We can spend, we have no problem spending money.
I don't know if there's anything that says we couldn't adjust the language, just to be clear, between now and 24.
So is that
Because
something
there
we
are
can
goals.
add? Is
Yeah.
that something, yeah, there are goals, so
Right.
can we just add that to discussion, just so we can maybe change the wording to maintain?
I didn't know if we should maintain or, yeah.
Increase the fund balance to 10%, we increased it.
We did.
Maintain it,
Mhm.
due to other fancy increase, we'd like to maintain, but let's put that on for discussion, and that's a good point.
And I don't know if the language really, Adam, I don't think that that would change anything that you're doing if we said maintain versus increase, because the increase has already happened, right?
It won't change anything that we're actually doing. There'll be a lot of reprinting documents, and
Okay.
posters, and different
right.
things that we have that on.
Okay.
Like all those frames. I mean, but
Yeah,
I mean.
so-
Well, I do not want to cause us more fund balance expense.
That's true.
It's gonna cost us
The working.
$5,000 to read, but, okay, so can we,
That's,
that is a very good point, but because we don't want to do it as a discussion. So if we can put it on as a discussion item, it can be a
That's
quick
true.
discussion and decide what we're gonna do.
Yep.
Because we don't want to spend $5,000, whatever it would be to
Right.
maintain it. So that would be a good point, so we'll put it on for discussion and kind of decide what we want to do. Anything else? All right, can I get a motion to adjourn?
Motion to adjourn.
Second?
Second is Chris, all in favor?
Aye.